Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, a game day edition of Canucks Conversation. Speaking of games, this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Greta Bar YVR, a great spot for all games, home and away. We're going to be there for the Canucks Army viewing parties throughout the season, the first of which is just days away on Saturday, October 19th. If you haven't bought your tickets yet, folks, make sure you go do that. Greta's a great spot, regardless of if we're having a watch party there or not. Lots of sports on at this time of year. Make sure you head on down to Greta because they've got all of the games on. Make sure that you play the games, get the drinks, get the street food, and watch whatever game you want. With weekly drink specials, Greta Bar YVR is the place to be, 50 West Cordova Street. Let the games begin. My name is Erik Brännström. I'm joined by Harmon Dial. Like I said, game day edition of Canucks Conversation. The Canucks are in town to take on the Florida Panthers tonight, the defending Cup champs, as the Canucks look for their first win of the season. Harmon, let's start with the news of the day. We kind of knew it was coming yesterday, but Erik Brännström gets recalled, and it looks like he's going to make his debut tonight, his Canucks debut, as Erik Brännström has left the team for personal reasons. Rick Dhaliwal reporting that seems to be something that he'll be back from within a few days, but opportunity for Erik Brännström tonight to make his Canucks debut.
Yeah, and yesterday I had the opportunity to do a little bit of a mini deep dive on Brännström, looking at the numbers and not just the numbers that are publicly available, but specifically looking at some of the puck moving data from him with the Senators last season, as well as watching the tape from him with Colorado in preseason. And it's interesting. I feel like I learned a lot. I don't think anything is shocking, but it's different when you have a description of a player and you've seen him here and there versus you actually watch him with more of a microscope and you get some data on him. So right off the bat, I mean, he's an agile skater. He's got excellent puck skills, which I'm sure some people have already seen the highlights that Dave Hall, for example, has posted from Brännström in the couple of games that he suited up for in Abbotsford. He's got some legit high-end tools. The numbers, which are really interesting, show that he's a high-risk, high-reward puck mover. And what I mean by that is, for starters, there's Corey Schneider. He's the creator of the All Three Zones tracking project, not to be confused with Corey Schneider, the former Canucks goaltender. But according to Corey's data, Brännström generated zone exits with control out of the defensive zone at the second highest rate of all Senators defensemen last season, behind only Jake Sanderson, right? So it's one thing sometimes guys get labeled as being quality puck movers just because they're undersized and skate well. It's nice to see that the results actually bear that out in practice too. This isn't just a potential thing. Like, no, he legit has proven he can be an above average NHL defender, breaking pucks out of the defensive zone. Now, the concern is that he's also more turnover prone than the average defender, right? So last season, he failed to get the puck out of the D zone on 33.8% of his exit attempts, whereas league average was 26.2% last season. So for me, how I interpret this is I would suspect, based off last year's trend, that he's going to likely be a volatile player. And what I mean by that is there are probably going to be some games where Brännström is breaking pucks out really impressively, looks indispensable to the lineup, and you go, wow, that guy looks like a huge diamond in the rough. Just because he has the high-end tools, he has some of that dazzling puck-carrying ability to where he can be really dynamic on the breakout. But there will also likely be other nights where he undoes a lot of that goodwill because of really costly turnovers and brain cramps. And this is where you definitely saw examples of that watching him in preseason with Colorado too.
Here's my question, Harm, is with this player who has these high-end tools that are hard to teach, can you teach him enough to raise that floor where the mistakes aren't as egregious, and he becomes a bit more of a serviceable guy that you're comfortable playing in your bottom four on a consistent basis? Like, do you think there's that level of growth for him still?
He's 25 years old, so and I know he's got high pedigree in the past. There's a chance he could be a late bloomer. Ultimately, I think you're going to have to live with him being volatile and live with knowing that he's not going to be the safest, most reliable player, and that you're going to have to stomach some mistakes. And for Brännström, it's just going to be proving that the upside of his puck moving ability outweighs the occasional mistakes, and just minimizing it to a level that's acceptable. Because again, watching the tape in preseason, I can understand why he's sometimes had a short leash with NHL coaches, despite putting up some decent, just like play controlling metrics in general over the last couple of seasons in Ottawa. I mean, we're talking about massive brain cramps, the type of mistakes that get you instantly stapled to the bench. I wrote an article with Drance today over at The Athletic that showed a couple of those examples from preseason. There was one game against Vegas where Brännström was on the right side, gives up a brutal pizza up the middle. But the problem then was he could have still recovered defensively and prevented an egregious breakdown. The problem is he compounded his mistake by attempting this like sprawling poke check, diving in. He got beat with that, left his partner out to dry on a 2v1 essentially, and it ended up being an easy backdoor play. And I was just like, jaw dropped, as like, geez, that's not even close to an NHL caliber play like that. That would be rough if we saw that from like an AHL defenseman in an NHL preseason environment. Earlier in that same game, there was a play. The power play was right about to expire. Puck goes back to him at the left point. He sort of loses it in his feet, and Vegas gets a breakaway chance. And it's just like, those are the types of mistakes in games that he is kind of sometimes susceptible to, and that's ultimately why Colorado waived him, right? That and why he ultimately wasn't picked up by any other team when the Canucks placed him on waivers either. But with all that said, I think the Canucks are so desperate for some injection of speed and skill among their bottom four group that, and the bottom four to this point has looked so bad that you have to roll the dice with Brännström. You have to see what he can do and just hope that he can be a serviceable Band-Aid solution for you. And this is what I think based on what we've seen to him at this point in his career. I don't expect him to be the type of defenseman that sticks in the lineup for the rest of the season. And game one of the playoffs, he's part of the top six. I just don't think, because of how undersized he is and because of how volatile he can be, I don't expect him to be that type of defenseman. But what I do think he can be is just a competent enough Band-Aid solution to give you help until the club is able to add a defenseman or two closer to the deadline. And then he becomes depth for you.
Do I get to take a victory lap on this one? Because I after the first game, maybe it was the second game, I asked you, I said, are you ready to call up Erik Brännström? Because I am. I said it early.
Sure, yeah, take it.
Sweet. I'm hoping to take another victory lap when we play Family Feud later in this episode. But continuing to preview this game, Harm, like you said, Brännström makes his debut tonight, his Canucks debut. Vincent Desharnais, let's talk about Vincent Desharnais. We don't have line rushes or anything like that, so we're assuming Arshdeep Bains isn't going to be on the top line again. But again, we don't know. We're assuming Daniel Sprong gets in the lineup. We don't know. What we really don't know, and we can't assume either way, is if Vincent Desharnais is going to play tonight. What are your thoughts on Vincent Desharnais and his chances of even getting back into the lineup tonight?
Yeah, and this is where Forbert's absence complicates things further, because he's such a key penalty killer for them. And for me, what the coaching staff is going to have to decide ultimately is, do they believe Juleson and Desharnais are similar enough when it comes to their penalty killing ability? Because let's be honest, Juleson really struggled in Tampa, and I would want to see him yanked from the lineup in favor of Desharnais. But we do know that last year Juleson really established himself as an above average penalty killer. The numbers showed that. The eye test showed that. With Forbort gone and him being one of your leading penalty killing defensemen, can they also afford to yank Juleson? How much faith do they have in Desharnais' penalty killing ability? Because if it's similar, right, if they don't see there being a significant drop-off between Juleson and Desharnais on the PK, then I want to see Desharnais get an opportunity to play with a puck mover, because that's the type of role where he succeeded with Edmonton last season. Was he played with Kulak, and that third pair put up really strong play driving results. That's the type of opportunity where I think Desharnais could succeed. But again, if the coaching staff is looking at their PK, which by the way was really good against Tampa the other night, and it's going to sting to lose Forbort from that perspective, if they think there's a big drop off, they might want to keep Juleson in just for PK purposes. I lean towards inserting Desharnais back in, though, if it was up to me.
Likewise, I agree with you, and I think it is. It's just how much of a drop off do you think there is between Juleson and Desharnais? And again, I like the Brännström Desharnais. I like the idea of that pairing together. It's going to be interesting to watch Erik Brännström, and I got to plug it. We're going to be having the tape series where Tyson Cole is going to look at each shift from Brännström's game and just hyper analyze it. So you're going to get that later on CanucksArmy.com. I think that'll either be up tonight with the 4 p.m. start or tomorrow morning, but nonetheless, you'll get some Erik Brännström coverage over at CanucksArmy.com. I'll save my thing. I wanted to talk about the Ottinger contract because I wrote about it and how it impacts the Canucks and Demko. I'll save that for anyone else. Let's get to that at the end of the show. I'm saying it out loud right now so you can remind me because I don't have it written down anywhere. The listeners will remind us too. But as we continue to preview tonight's game, Harm, people in the chat are already pointing out 1 p.m. Canucks convo equals another Canucks loss. I'm mentally ready already. Look, we're gonna see. We're gonna see if they lose tonight. I think we scrap the 1 p.m. starts for game days. We'll see. But as we continue to preview tonight's game, Harm, the Panthers are going to be without Matthew Tkachuk and Alex Barkov, and it's their third game in 4 nights tonight.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to not only with this game where you're getting a bit of a break, catching the defending Stanley Cup champions at a time where they're a little bit weaker and more tired. But also look at the next couple of games next 3 games even that they have: Philly, Chicago, and Pittsburgh after Tampa. So if you can find a way to beat this tired, banged up Panthers team, all of a sudden you've got an opportunity where you're going to get Philly and Chicago again. And of course, the Canucks just lost to Philadelphia. They're not going to be an easy out, but you're talking about 3 teams that did not make the playoffs last year. It would be an opportunity to really get on a roll and put to bed all this discussion around the slow start and how worried should we all be. It'll just provide a sense of calm and relief. And if you remember going back to last year, the Canucks won their first couple games of the season against Edmonton, and then I believe they dropped a game to Philly, and then they were okay against Tampa. They were better, but I still don't think they won that game. It was the game against Florida, maybe 5th game of the season, that really served as a turning point. I think I remember PDG scored in that game, and that's really where they started to get on a roll. So if they can find a way to win tonight, it could be a similar story of not that they're going to dominate in October as much as they did last year, but just stabilize the ship a little bit and get back on track, get back into a playoff spot early so that you're not having to play catch up in November and December.
Again, that's 4 points in 4 games. That's the exact same number of points that they had through 4 games last season. I pointed that out yesterday. So we'll see what happens tonight. We might be talking about an 0-4. Well, not technically 0-4, but you know what I mean. A winless team. We might be talking about a winless team tomorrow, Harm, but let's hope that's not the case as the Canucks take on the Panthers at 4 p.m. Pacific time tonight. This one from Stephen Wong. He said, which one of Sprong, Amon, or Bain sits tonight? Again, we don't have morning skates. We don't know. But, like, I would think it's Baines that comes out of the lineup, right? Like, is that crazy to say? It could be Amon. I definitely don't think it's Sprong. Sprong does not deserve to sit 2 games in a row. I'll confidently say that. That's a miscue if Daniel Sprong's sitting tonight. That's a miss by the coaching staff.
Yeah, I'd like to see Sprong back in the lineup. The thing is, Baines, I don't want to see him in a top 6 role, but to be honest, from a forechecking perspective, the speed, I thought he looked decent. Like, I think he deserves another crack in the bottom 6. Now, is it going to be
Rachu's out? Let's remember Rachu's out, right? So maybe that opens something for Nils Amon. Like this is the math I'm trying to do, because you're assuming that Pia Suter is going to center the 3rd line tonight. Do we see Pettersson with Höglander and Garland? Like, I think there's way more questions about the lineup tonight than we're even letting on here.
Well, I've said it for a couple of shows now. I want to see Pettersson with Höglander and Garland, but yeah, I'd want Baines in lineup over Amon.
Yeah,
to be totally honest, I don't think it's a big difference. Like, you're kind of splitting hairs there. Amon was pretty decent against Calgary in the season opener. Ultimately, you're talking about 2 guys that are going to slot lower down the lineup. It's not that one is that much better than the other, but I saw enough from Baines to where I want to see him get another look, just because I also think, just big picture, he might have a little bit more upside than Amon as a player.
Okay. Anything else on tonight's game that you wanted to get to?
I mean, just with Kachuk and Barkov out, it's sort of going to be similar to the Tampa game where, yeah, the top end of Florida's roster is still going to be pretty good because they've got guys that can move up the lineup. Like, how great of a luxury is it that the Panthers had Anton Lundell centering their third line, and now you can just bump him up to top six role, and he's not going to look out of place at all. Reinhardt's still been buzzing. They still got Verhaeghe and Bennett, so their top six is still in pretty good shape. But I'm looking at that bottom six on paper, and it looks weak because of the guys like Louis Durainen that have had to bump up the lineup. I mean, the third line, according to Daily Faceoff right now, is Jesper Boqvist, AJ Greer, and Sam Moskevich. Fourth line of Gadjevich, Patrick Giles, and Balinskis, who's a defenseman. So that bottom six looks weak. But again, it's not going to matter because it's not going to matter if the Canucks can't hold their own at the top of the lineup, right? Because Tampa was in a similar boat where their top end was still pretty good. Their bottom six looked weak. Ultimately, it didn't matter because the Canucks got dummied so badly at the top of the lineup. So as long as Vancouver's top six can hold serve and keep things almost kind of neutral, they should have the advantage when it comes to the forward group tonight.
Kevin Lankinen is the likely starter in goal for them tonight. I quickly, just on Lankinen, I think it would be a real statement if he can come out and have another above average game like he did in his Canucks debut. And I said it yesterday, if he has another start like that, to me, it's a 1A, 1B with Shilov still, but Lankinen is that 1B, or excuse me, Lankinen is that 1A if he has another strong game tonight. We'll see though. We'll talk about it tomorrow when we break down tonight's game. But let's get to our poll question, which today is brought to you by the Vancouver Whitecaps. Your Vancouver Whitecaps FC are finishing up a strong season and are heading into their final regular season match against Real Salt Lake this Saturday. Though it's coming down to the wire with decision day looming, the Whitecaps FC have officially clinched a playoff spot. Playoff tickets will be on sale shortly, but as listeners and viewers of Canucks Conversation, you can get in on the exclusive pre-sale by texting CAPS to 604-305-4530. For more information, visit whitecapsfc.com. All right, pull up the poll question. I gave it a read. Producer Jacob Lazar, the host of Family Feud, came up with this one. Which recent Canucks prospect who got away hurts the most? Overwhelming majority, say 71.5% on Gustav Forsling, 22.5% say Jared McCann, 2% say Jalen Chatfield, and 4% said other. Gustav Forsling, obviously, to me is the big one. Like, that's the one that hurts the most because you could really use them. I saw someone yesterday say, hey, maybe Erik Brännström is their Gustav Forsling. Thoughts, Harm?
No, I don't see it. For every example of like a Gustav Forsling going from waivers to legit top pair defenseman, there's a million other examples of Brännström-like prospects that don't turn into anything besides being marginal depth players. But yeah, I mean, Forsling, it's on the one hand, I don't fault the Canucks too badly for it because even after he got traded, he ended up on waivers a couple times. It didn't work out for him in Chicago. It didn't work out for him in Carolina. And especially that's a smart organization over there in the Hurricanes, and they missed the potential on him too. Some defensemen just have weird development trajectories. It definitely seems like Forsling fits under that bill. But yeah, I mean, for what he is today, you're talking about a guy that is an unbelievable skater. So you're talking about fixing the puck moving issues with the second and third pairs. Instant fix there. Plus, he is so good as a shutdown defender. We saw it all during
all playoffs.
During their playoff run. I mean, yeah, he would be a game changer right now.
Erik Brännström, he's on his way. It all starts tonight. Erik Brännström becoming the next Gustav Forsling. It all starts tonight. And what starts right now, producer Jacob, is Canucks Conversation Family Feud. Take it away.
And it's time for another edition of Canucks Conversation Family Feud. Now, I see that Quads is muted. Didn't we agree that Harmon was going to go second this time and Quads was going to go first? I know you guys mentioned that last week.
We're 3-1. I'll just go first. I'm just not going to give Quads a hard time.
All right. So Quads, I didn't see if he switched out his headphones, but I don't think he can hear us right now. Quads, the Padres suck. Mariners, the worst team in baseball.
Mariners are never going to win. Yeah, okay. We're never talking baseball on the show. Yeah, okay, he's fine.
There we go. We're good. All right, Harmon. Just give me 1 second here. I got to actually get our timers lined up. You will have 25 seconds on the clock. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. You guys haven't taken the pass yet, but you are allowed to pass. So if you can't think of something right away, give it a pass. We'll get back to it at the end if we have time.
Okay.
Your timer will show up on the screen as soon as I start it. Don't worry. I know you like having it on screen there.
Yeah.
All right, Harmon, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is Brock Besser to be a Canuck next season?
8.
Besides Bure, name a Canuck who scored 40 goals in a season.
Daniel Sedin.
Name an NHL team that was defunct before the 90s.
The Atlanta Flames.
Name an NHL player of Asian descent.
Jason Robertson.
Name a Canuck with more than 200 penalty minutes in a season.
Gino Ojic.
There you go. Buzzer beater. All right, you can get quads back in. I'll tally up your points.
How did it go?
I might have butchered one of the questions, but otherwise I feel decent.
Okay. Right on.
I think we got a decent shot.
Okay, let's do it. I'm ready. Karn in the chat said there was one question that was especially harder this week. So that's my hint for the game.
All right. So Harmon did really well. He got 132 points there.
Attaboy.
No misses either. He got all good answers. So yeah, another great job by Harmon setting the bar.
Duh.
All right, Clyde, I'm gonna remind you again of the rules. You're gonna have 30 seconds on the clock.
All right.
Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. And I told Harm this. You guys haven't used your pass yet. If you can't think of anything right away, pass. You ran out of time last week, so use that pass, and we can come back to it at the end if need be.
Okay.
All right, Quads, are you ready?
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is Brock Besser to be a Canuck next season?
9.
Besides Bure, name a Canuck who scored 40 goals in a season.
Brock Besser.
Name an NHL team that was defunct before the 90s.
Oh, the California Golden Seals.
Name an NHL player of Asian descent.
Nick Robertson.
Name a Canuck with more than 200 penalty minutes in a season.
Todd Bertuzzi.
All right. Good job.
I crushed that.
No, you did not.
What?
First off, Todd Bertuzzi never actually got to 200 penalty minutes in a season.
Ooh.
So there were two people, and I know this because I went through. There were two people that responded it in the survey. I'll give you the 2 points.
Perfect.
You said Nick Robertson for the NHL player of Asian descent. His brother Jason was Harmon's pick.
Yeah.
25 people said Jason Robertson.
Nice.
Only one person said Nick Robertson.
Damn.
So 3 points there. I'm going to tally up the rest of your score and we'll see how you did. But yeah, it was a tough finish.
Yeah. So 5 points on 2 questions. So I need like 70. No, I need 60 something on the other ones.
All right. Well, the good news is your California Golden Seals saved you. You got 76 points, 208. This was your closest win of the year. But it is a win. I'll break down all of them for you guys here. Brock Besser, 1 to 10. The number one answer was 8 with 31. So that was Harmon's answer.
Nice.
9 was the number 3 answer. It was a pretty good spread. Some people said 10. We got as low as 2. Someone said a 2 out of 10 that Brock Besser will be a Canuck. Brock Besser was the number 1 answer for a Canuck who scored 40 in a season. There's the recency bias. Remember, that's always big. But Daniel Sedin was the number 3. Naslund was the number 2. Kessler made the list. McGillney with only 8 votes. He's the only guy other than Bure who scored 50. So I'm surprised he was so low. Tony Tanti got on there as well with 11. So
Dollywall voted.
Yeah. Don Taylor and Dollywall special right there. NHL team that was defunct before the 90s. Some people didn't really get this one either. There was a few Nordiques and Whalers in there. Those were 90s relocations. I wanted the old stuff. Golden Seals / Oakland Seals. That was number 1 answer. Quads. The Atlanta Flames were the number 2 answer, and that was Harmon's pick there. So
nice.
Nailed that one. Some other ones: Colorado Rockies, Cleveland Barons, Montreal Maroons, Kansas City Scouts, and the original Ottawa Senators got on there as well. NHL player of Asian descent. So you you guys got the number 2 answer with Jason Robertson. His brother was way down the list. Paul Correa, number 1 answer. So local guy there. Nick Suzuki got on the list. Manny Malhotra, Arshdeep Bains, Kiefer Sherwood. So some current Canucks players and coaches, obviously. Richard Park got some votes as well. And then there was a few random ones in there. I saw Hiroshi. I saw a Jet Wu, although he's not an NHLer, but still made it in there. And then Kyler Yamamoto. So that was a good one. Whoever suggested that one, that was kind of one of my favorite ones, actually, just because it was, there's a lot of Canucks currently who have Asian ancestry. And then, of course, some local guys in there as well with Korea. So I really like that one. Finally, 200 penalty minutes in the season. Gino Ojic, number 1 answer. Number 2 answer was Donald Brashear. Number 3, Tiger Williams. I checked. I think Tiger Williams once had a 340 penalty minute season while scoring like 25 goals. Like the 80s must have been a fun time to watch hockey. I know a lot of the older guys love talking about the 80s like it was the greatest decade ever, but watching a star goal scorer go out and put up 350 penalty minutes would have been something pretty special, I think. So yeah, there we go. Great work. Thank you to all the listeners who submitted these questions. This was probably our best survey. You guys got 208 points. There was no like crazy number 1 answers. Like, good work, everybody. So keep those coming. I'll leave it in every survey going forward. Next week's survey in the description if you guys want to leave your responses.
Do we have music? The 4-in-1 graphic?
No, because all that stuff's on the computer in the studio. So when we're from home, unfortunately, I don't have that stuff. But
that's okay. That's okay.
Just win next week and we'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll be all right. Okay, 4-1 is our record. That's unbelievable, Harm. I can't believe I got golden seals. That's
the franchise. Honestly, if I hadn't thought of Atlanta, I wouldn't have been I would have had no answer.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I think we got a little lucky there, but some skill too.
Some skill too. All right, so 208. We came away with the victory. That's all that matters. Let's get to anyone else, which is powered by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations opening. You need to get more customers and keep them coming back. So really, you're already thinking about Square because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to square.ca and see why Square is big in restaurants. No more full URL. The Square Up. You just go to square.ca. That's where you got to go to find out more.
I like the Square Up URL though.
I know it was funny, but they told me to stop doing it. So square.ca is where you got to go.
I figured you make the joke the first day.
Yeah. Let's get to the chat. Dakota Joshua Truther, but Spooky in the chat said, "Hi guys, hope you're doing well. We hope you're doing well as well." Let's get some anyone else's here, Harm, from the YouTube live chat. This one from Stephen Wong about what I said about Sprong, Harm. He said, Desharnais sat 2 games in a row. I think it's possible Sprong does too. Not that I want it to happen is what Stephen said, but I don't think it would be a good idea to sit Daniel Sprong tonight. I just don't. Like, you need some scoring in your lineup. I talked about the advantage that you're going to have by having him on PP2. He, in my mind, is one of their most lethal threats on the power play, albeit on the second unit. They played the second unit last game. They've done it every game so far, and during the preseason, PP2 got some time as well. I would have Daniel Sprong in the lineup tonight.
Yeah, I think the trickiest part for the coaching staff is going to be figuring out the right spot in the lineup for him, because it isn't just as easy as saying, well, you need his goal scoring in the lineup so you can kind of pluck him anywhere. Because, for example, that fourth line, which typically has Bluger and Sherwood on it, you know that they're going to get defensive zone draws. Even on occasion in the first period, for example, they were trusted with a D-zone draw against the Kucherov line. So Sprong wouldn't be the perfect stylistic fit for that fourth line's defense first role and the type of deployment they could face. So then it's a matter of, okay, where in the top 9 does he fit? Is there an opportunity for the coaching staff to build out sort of like a sheltered third scoring line with Pia Suter on it that maybe gets softer minutes and you're looking at to deliver some secondary offense? But of course, to even discuss that, the problem is we don't even know what the top 6 looks like. Yeah. Right. We don't know if Höglander and Garland are going to bump up, if they're going to stick in that role. Because that's the other thing is if Höglander and Garland stay on the third line with Pia Suter, then all of a sudden, do you want Daniel Sprong back in the top 6? Because first of all, he's not going to likely be a fit with Miller and Besser, just because, again, that line usually gets toughs. And just even stylistically, I don't know if they're a fit. And then what the plan B is going back to Sprong with Pettersson, right? So I want to see him back into the lineup. And I think the ideal way to do it would be to bump Garland and Höglander up into the top 6 and sort of create this sheltered third scoring line to airdrop Sprong onto. But we'll see what the coaching staff is thinking. There's a lot of variables up in the air right now.
I think tonight's the night to do it too, though, right? Like, if you're going to have that bottom 6 where you're not too worried about the matchups that they're going to have against the other team's bottom 6, it's tonight against Florida. Okay, this one from Karn in the chat. Is Liljegren worth trading for? Timothy Liljegren. He seems to have room to grow, but don't know if he fits with the current style. He's reportedly on the trading block out of Toronto.
Yeah, if he was on an expiring deal and he wasn't on much of a, put it this way, if he hadn't just signed his $3 million times 2-year extension, I'd say yes, because even though he's not a perfect player, and even though he's been a player that hasn't been trusted in the playoffs, and he's not like the most physical, defensively responsible player, his puck moving is legit. It's just like the issue, and I'm going to dive deeper into this. I was thinking about kicking around and doing an article with James Myrtle, who's the Leafs writer at The Athletic, to collaborate on that. Contract-wise, though, you're looking at next season. You've got Hronek obviously locked up on the books, which you want. You've also got Myers. You've already got Desharnais' contract. Then you'd be adding a fourth right-handed defender in Liljegren. Who all of them make well over league minimum, and only one of them in Hronek is actually a bona fide top 4 right-handed defenseman.
Yeah.
So is that too much money between Myers, Desharnais, and Liljegren into 3 right-handed defensemen that aren't surefire top 4 defensemen on contending teams? Like, I think that would be a legit risk. And so for that reason, I'd be hesitant, but maybe the Canucks feel that he has breakout potential. He's a polarizing guy. Like, his underlying numbers have always been really sharp in a sheltered role, and the charts and analytics would make you think and believe that he should develop into a top 4 defenseman one day. But by the eye test, he's definitely looked shaky at times, and there are people around the league that really don't believe that he's anything more than like a marginal third pair guy. So it's worth diving into. It's worth exploring, but ultimately, I think his contract would turn me off.
That's fair. That's very fair. Here's something else that I think is fair. Travis Wall with this one in the chat. Absolute banger. If we had an award, actually, Travis, we still got to give these tickets away. Travis just won the tickets to the watch party. Travis, send me an email. Jacob, get in touch with him somehow. You just won the tickets to the watch party.
Wow.
Here's this absolute banger. Anyone else from Travis Wall? Was Quads right? Yes. And the team should have played their vets more in the preseason. I forgot that was a take of mine. Absolutely, I was right.
Did you forget the part where JT was banged up and how that was a really important piece of context for why they weren't icing their proper lineup?
How many games did Elias Pettersson need? I think some more.
Maybe, but I don't know that another preseason game would have gotten Pettersson going.
You don't know if it wouldn't have, though, because we didn't see it. So I was right.
Touché.
All right, Travis, get in touch with us somehow. We'll get you those tickets.
You'll take any opportunity possible to victory lap. Like this one, I won't say you're wrong on because teams look poor to start, but I still can't get over the Lankinen one. Taking a victory lap, predicting the only NHL goaltender off the market that they should be interested in him.
That was a good one. That was some of my best work. This one from RA45 on Liljegren, and I didn't realize this. Said, nope, not tall enough. Only 6'1", I think. And I looked it up. Yeah, Liljegren's only 6'1", so not gonna work in Vancouver, unfortunately. That's the other thing. In all seriousness, I'm like, I know we do the bit about tall guys and everything, but did the Canucks just like buy into what they had last year a little bit too much with just let's just get tall guys on defense and it's going to work itself out? Like, Did the Canucks maybe have the wrong approach going into free agency? Like you had Myers, you go out and get Desharnais, you lose Zadorov, who obviously is like a bit of a unicorn. Let's be honest. The story with Zadorov isn't that, oh, he's tall. It's that he moves the puck really well. He skates really well. Did they maybe misfire a little bit and take the wrong lessons from last year?
Well, you always have to find a balance, right? I think Vegas's blue line is the model example of a defense where you've got a little bit of everything. Like I look at Vegas's blue line and everybody is at least 6'2" or taller, but you've got a combination of players with different skill sets, right? You have legit high-end puck moving ability with three of your defensemen in Theodore, Pietrangelo, and Hanifin, and then you have your meat and potatoes defensive defenseman that can clear out the front of the net, be big, mean, physical, hard to play against, clog the slot with the likes of Haig and McNabb and Whitecloud. Like that to me is an example of the perfect balance. And I think when I look at the Canucks blue line, I really do believe size matters in the playoffs when it comes to how your defense is constructed. How it just makes it so much more difficult for the other team to get on the inside, boxing out, the battles down low, the play in the trenches. That stuff legitimately matters, and it's a big reason why I believe the Canucks sort of outperformed their projection last year is because guys like Soucy and Myers and Zadorov were really hard to play against. But I think we all agreed coming out of free agency that they were missing some puck moving, some offensive element. And yeah, they probably didn't find the right balance, and they're going to have to bring it back a little bit closer to the middle because they've had a really difficult time. And I want to bring up this tweet from Noah Strang, right? Because even in the playoffs, we continually, I brought up the data around when Quinn Hughes is on the bench, the Canucks just can't generate any offense. And a large part of it seems to be because of their second and third pairs. Noah Strang tweeted out the Canucks without Hughes or Hronek on the ice at 5-on-5 so far this season. 19.8 shots per 60 minutes would rank last in the NHL. 1.52 expected goals for per 60 minutes would rank last in the NHL. 2 goals for versus 6 goals against. So yeah, they do need to find a better balance, and I'm sure they will try and address that at some point in the season with the trade.
Rasmus Anderson, go get him. Okay, we got to get to our Bet365 bet of the day. Harman, I'm going to let you make the call. Some people in the chat are saying, okay, you can't take Canucks money line because we do that on every game day. We've been doing that for years, but people are saying, don't do it. You can't do it today because they've lost. Do we take Florida? Like what do we do?
Just don't take whatever you do. Don't take the Canucks on the money line.
Bet on like the over under or something, right? Like,
oh yeah, I guess I could do that.
Yeah.
And like, don't bet on Elias Pettersson to like have a big game or something. Like,
yeah,
don't,
I mean,
it can't be. Don't bet something positive about the Canucks.
This is too much pressure. This is too much pressure. I'm not doing Canucks. We're not even touching this game.
Then do baseball.
No. We're not doing baseball. Don't you picking up where I'm going with this?
What, are you going to find some like third tier men's volleyball league in Europe?
No. I'm taking the Habs. Tonight,
okay.
Harm. Let's get to it. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365. Tonight, the Habs take on the LA Kings, and we are taking them with that Lane Hudson kid and Sam Montembeault in net. We're taking the Montreal Canadiens, the underdog Montreal Canadiens, at plus 120 odds to take down the Kings. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. Quickly, I wanted to get this in, Harm, because as I was looking at Bet365, I noticed Canucks are the favorites tonight. Canucks are the favorites on the road against the Panthers. We're not taking it as our bet. I'm just saying it is interesting. They are the favorites tonight, so we'll see how it goes for them.
Ottinger, you wanted to talk about real quick.
Oh, good reminder. Yeah, good reminder. So Ottinger signs the contract in Dallas, 8 years at $8.25 million, identical to the Jeremy Swayman contract. You've got Linus Ullmark, who signed 4 years at $8.25 in Ottawa. You've got Igor Shesterkin turning down an $11 million annual average value on his contract extension with the Rangers. this is all telling me that NHL goalies are cashing in. The cap is going up, and NHL goalies are finally saying, okay, you know what? We're not going to be the least paid players on the team, because that's ultimately what it was. Your best skater was not being paid anywhere close to what your best goalie was being paid. Your best goalie was being paid way less than your best skater was being paid. That's how it's been for years. But goalies are seemingly coming together and trying to buck this trend, and they're getting paid. They're cashing in, and they are getting paid. So what does this mean for the Canucks, Harm? I think it means a couple things. Thatcher Demko's up in 2 years, including this season. So if he returns from this popliteus injury in mid-November or November, whatever, and he returns and he's fully healthy for the rest of this season and all of next season, there's not going to be any sort of worry about being injury prone as he heads into the open market. There might be among fans, and the Canucks might have those worries, but heading into the open market, he's going to be able to cash in. Like, he's going to get paid in free agency if he has no other injury issues. But if he has a little thing bothering him here and there over these final 2 seasons, including this one, it sets the Canucks up to be in a position where teams might get scared off from free agency, and the Canucks might be able to get some sort of damaged goods discount, is how I described it in the article I wrote over at CanucksArmy.com. They might be able to get some sort of damaged goods discount on Demko, where you're looking at potentially elite goaltending and surplus value because of what you were able to sign him for. At the end of the day, Harm, I know the simple answer is, well, don't pay him if he gets injured. You don't want to keep Demko around if he gets injured again. If it's something minor, right, and it still is enough to make teams say, okay, you know what, we're not going to dish out big money to this player. At the end of the day, Harm, there's only like 5 to 10 goalies in the league who are as elite as Thatcher Demko, right? And that's going to be tough for the Canucks to just go out and replace. And right now, again, things can change in 2 years. I wrote about that as well. Right now, like when Markstrom left, they had Demko waiting in the wings, and they were pretty confident, okay, this is going to be an elite goalie. Right now, you don't have that. Like, you don't have that in Archer Shelovs, where you think Archer Shelovs can be good and he could be a solid goaltender, but you can't possibly think that Archer Shelovs is going to be an elite goaltender at this juncture. Like, there's a chance, but you can't confidently go into a business decision with Demko and say, no, we're not going to sign Demko in free agency because we know Shelovs is going to be elite goaltender. They knew Demko was going to be an elite goaltender when they let Jacob Markstrom walk, right? They don't know that with Archer Shelovs. And to me, that's the big difference, is you just don't know that just yet. Again, you've got 2 years to figure out if it's going to be him. It could be Nikita Tolopilo. I'm not going to start going down the depth chart, but they do have some goaltending prospects as well. So it's a very fluid situation, basically, when it comes to Demko and the Canucks. But that's the thing I wondered is, okay, if he doesn't get injured, he's going to be in line for a big ticket. I'm not saying the Canucks don't want to go sign that, but he's going to be 30 heading into his first season on his next deal. He's going to be 31 in December. So technically that's his age 31 season. You're not looking at 7 or 8 years. You're probably looking in more in that 4 to 5 range that we saw Allmark sign in, but the price is going to be a hefty one for Demko on his next deal, it looks like.
Yeah, I don't even want to try and predict what his next contract could look like. The if he stays healthy is such a huge if, such a massive if. It also isn't just a if he stays healthy, it's a what does he look like when he's back, and can he immediately rebound to his elite level and sort of sustain that? But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how many of these massive goalie contracts end up becoming future albatrosses. I'll also say this: how good does Nashville feel about getting that Saros extension done early in the offseason? To have Saros locked up at $7.74 million is his AAV. It seems like such a steal looking at these contracts that Allmark and Swayman and Ottinger have gotten, because Saros is a better goaltender than all of them.
Yep. That's what it comes down to. He's a better goaltender than all of them. And right now, the Canucks have one of the best goaltending contracts in the league. And Demko's hurt right now, but that deal for the next 2 seasons is a steal. So, of course, Demko's going to be looking at cashing in. But again, we've got 2 years to figure out exactly how this is going to map out. But it was something interesting that I wanted to bring up. We will close it out there. Any final thoughts, Harm?
Nope.
Excellent. We'll close it out there for my co-host Harman Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar. My name is Dave Guidrelli. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.